guess those punches Rocky took to the head were real after all.
Okay, my big muscular friend, I saw you the other night on Jimmy Kimmel, kind of making fun of me.
George Washington was the father of our country. Donald Trump is the father of Eric. Big difference.
Have you ever seen a Hollywood legend take on a late-night powerhouse in a way that leaves everyone speechless? This story goes way beyond a few sharp one-liners. It's a clash that put the spotlight on how quickly loyalty to certain ideals can divide the biggest names in show business. In one corner, we have Sylvester Stallone, iconic actor, creative force, and the heart behind blockbusters like Rocky and Rambo. In the other corner is Jimmy Kimmel, late-night host with a reputation for biting commentary and headline-grabbing humor. Their feud began with a punchline, one that Stallone refused to dodge. But the real shocker? What seemed like a simple comedic jab revealed deep cracks in Hollywood's carefully polished exterior. Today, we're diving into the unexpected rivalry that pitted a Hollywood heavyweight against late-night TV's seasoned provocateur. It's a story that challenges the notion of who gets the final say in entertainment, and it'll have you rethinking everything you thought you knew about celebrity culture. Stay with me, because this isn't just another fluff piece about celebrity drama. We're exploring the real issues: censorship, conformity, and the battle between authenticity and mainstream narratives. By the end of this video, you might just find yourself rooting for the underdog in a way you never expected. It all started when Jimmy Kimmel took aim at Stallone on his late-night show. No one would have batted an eye if it had been a quick barb or a harmless wisecrack. Kimmel does it all the time. But this time, he targeted Stallone's very public praise for Donald Trump. During one of his monologues, Kimmel sarcastically compared Trump to George Washington in a way that made Stallone sound out of touch. Kimmel's words came across as more than playful teasing. He quipped that maybe those punches Stallone took while filming Rocky had done some real damage. In the blink of an eye, the feud spilled across social media, sparking comments and memes everywhere. Kimmel might have been looking for a quick laugh, but instead he got a fiery backlash. That single joke cracked open a raw nerve. People started asking why Kimmel felt the need to mock Stallone so forcefully over a political stance. Was it just part of late-night comedy, or did it represent something bigger, like Hollywood's broader intolerance for views that deviate from a particular script? But Stallone wasn't about to let that punchline go unanswered. When your entire career is built on grit, determination, and the willingness to fight against the odds, like Stallone's was, silence usually isn't an option. Stallone didn't hold a press conference or leave things to a cautious publicist. Instead, he hopped onto social media and punched back. He started with a mix of humor and sarcasm, addressing Kimmel directly as "my big muscular friend." Of course, Kimmel isn't exactly known for having the build of an action star, so right away Stallone was flipping the script. Then came the real punch. Stallone joked he was working on a new sequel just for Kimmel, referencing his own 1992 comedic flop, Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot. Only this time, the proposed title was Stop, or Your Grandmother Will Beat Your Ass. That line alone set social media on fire. It was clever, self-deprecating, since Stallone was poking fun at one of his less critically acclaimed films, and a sharp dig back at Kimmel's style of humor. But the jabs didn't stop with silly titles. Stallone went deeper, criticizing a trend he sees in Hollywood: the rush to ridicule anyone who doesn't toe the popular line. With remarkable bluntness, he mentioned how creativity is suffering because people are too scared of being canceled or ridiculed if they say something that bucks the trend. He also claimed that if Rocky were being pitched today, it might not even get made. Too risky, too offbeat, not politically correct enough, or maybe just not something the big studios would gamble on without a guaranteed box office formula. Of course, one fiery response can lead to another. Soon, the spotlight turned to Hollywood's broader reaction. And that's where things really got interesting. Hollywood has never been shy about dividing itself into camps. You have the A-listers, the up-and-comers, the renegades, and the old guard. But lately, the fault lines have grown deeper. Some critics argue that it's more than just left versus right. It's about who's allowed to speak freely and who isn't. Stallone's clash with Kimmel revealed that many fans and viewers are tired of the same predictable Hollywood formula. Big names trotted out for safe interviews, playful jabs that never really cut to the heart of anything, and a self-congratulatory tone that overlooks serious issues in the name of maintaining a brand. What turned the spat into a much bigger story was Stallone's refusal to let it get swept under the rug. He didn't just defend himself, he also defended the idea of creative freedom. He pointed out that many of his best-loved films pushed boundaries and didn't always align with the era's norms. It was that willingness to take risks, both in his personal life and on the big screen, that turned Stallone into a global icon. But times have changed. With networks and studios wary of offending certain audiences, they leaned toward projects deemed safe. Stallone's jab at Kimmel wasn't just about a late-night joke. It was a bigger statement about how creative voices can be stifled if they're considered too controversial. If Hollywood was waiting for this feud to die down quietly, they underestimated Stallone's loyal fans and the vocal supporters of fearless conversation. Social media lit up with discussions, debates, and everything in between. One side argued that Kimmel was simply doing what comedians do, poking fun at public figures, especially those vocal about politics. The other side insisted Stallone had every right to defend himself and call out what he saw as a coordinated attempt to shame him over personal beliefs. Soon, the topic expanded beyond just these two men. People started asking broader questions about late-night TV. Are these shows still relevant in an age where YouTube and podcasts offer unfiltered conversations that last longer than a few carefully edited minutes? Does Kimmel really challenge all perspectives, or does he tailor his jokes to fit a specific ideological comfort zone? Fan forums lit up with messages praising Stallone. Some called him the last real one left in Hollywood. Others said they missed the days when edgy, risk-taking films defined the entertainment landscape rather than reboots or safe bets. Clips from Stallone's reality show, The Family Stallone, began circulating more than ever. People commented on how genuine Stallone seemed when he was at home, often in stark contrast to how contrived late-night interviews can feel. Meanwhile, under the bright lights of the late-night stage, Jimmy Kimmel had a dilemma on his hands. Kimmel's team tried to put out the flames by inviting Stallone onto the show. From the outside, that might look like a straightforward fix. Let Stallone come on, share his side, and bury the hatchet with a couple of jokes. But behind the scenes, reports claimed there were strings attached. Kimmel's producers allegedly wanted control over the talking points, the direction of the conversation, and even the final cut of the interview. Stallone balked. He wasn't about to walk into a studio where he couldn't speak freely, only to be steered or edited for safe consumption. In a pointed statement, he said if they couldn't have a real, unfiltered discussion, there was no point. As word of these backstage demands leaked, the public reaction skewed heavily against Kimmel. Even viewers, who usually love his comedic style, began questioning his motives. Was he really interested in hearing Stallone out, or was he simply trying to craft a segment that would paint Stallone as the punchline yet again? Ratings for Kimmel's show took a dip, showing that late-night fans sometimes push back when the format starts to feel too staged. Critics from various outlets also weighed in, suggesting that Kimmel often focuses on mocking those who stray from Hollywood's preferred viewpoints. This affair added to the perception that mainstream talk shows might be more interested in upholding certain narratives than in fostering genuine conversations. And while all eyes were on Kimmel's studio, Stallone was flourishing in a place far removed from the scripted nature of network TV. We're living in a time where the entire media landscape is in flux. Gone are the days when late-night TV was the ultimate platform for a celebrity to shape public opinion. Now, podcasts, independent YouTube channels, and long-form interviews give people the chance to speak directly to audiences for an hour or more. No sound bites, no editorial cuts, no pre-approved cue cards. Stallone's story underscores why so many fans prefer these newer formats. They don't want the polished, often repetitive style of late-night television. They crave authenticity, unvarnished conversations, raw opinions, and stories that feel real. When Stallone criticized what he called Hollywood's culture of censorship, it struck a chord because anyone who spent time on social media or watched a heated podcast knows there's a growing demand for real talk. Meanwhile, the gatekeepers of traditional media, networks and big-budget production companies, face an identity crisis. They're scrambling to maintain relevance. Younger viewers, in particular, are less inclined to tune in at a set time for rehearsed jokes and orchestrated banter. For them, it's far more interesting to watch a YouTuber dissect the day's issues over the course of an hour or see a podcast host challenge guests without a teleprompter. And as this transformation takes place, Stallone's personal brand is hitting new heights. Thanks in large part to a reality show that highlights his most authentic side. Stallone is no stranger to big moments, but his reality show, The Family Stallone, has given viewers a peek at a side of him that goes far beyond the tough guy roles. Audiences see him as a father, a husband, and a veteran of the entertainment world who has kept his feet on the ground. The show's popularity surged exactly at the time this feud with Kimmel escalated, almost as if the universe decided it was time to shine a spotlight on how genuine Stallone can be in real life. Clips from the show went viral on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, featuring tender moments with his family and everyday humor that resonated across age groups. Fans remarked that Stallone felt more real than most celebrities they see on talk shows, where interviews often follow a predictable pattern. This authenticity played directly into the dispute with Kimmel. While Kimmel's monologues and interviews are meticulously planned, The Family Stallone gave a glimpse into unscripted interactions, moments of spontaneity that traditional late-night segments struggle to replicate. Stallone wasn't just talking about honesty and creative freedom. He was living it on camera. So, with the audience rallying behind him and his show skyrocketing, Stallone became the face of a broader movement questioning the status quo. Now the focus shifted to whether Hollywood would adapt or cling to the old ways. The conflict between Stallone and Kimmel is more than two celebrities trading barbs. It's a snapshot of Hollywood's ongoing identity crisis. Are we stepping into an era of uncensored creativity and open dialogue, or will big studios double down on safe, formulaic content for fear of stirring the pot? Stallone's win, or at least a show of public support, suggests that many people are hungry for a brand of authenticity that late-night TV often lacks. When an actor as high-profile as Stallone speaks out against the rigid environment in Hollywood, it carries weight. It emboldens other personalities, be they actors, musicians, or comedians, to be more outspoken about the restrictions they face. Hollywood might feel the heat to adapt. Late-night shows could try to book more diverse guests, loosen up their segments, and allow for real discourse. Or they could continue the old routine of safe jokes, predictable guests, and heavily edited interviews, at the risk of losing a chunk of their audience. The results of the standoff hint that mainstream entertainment is at a crossroads, where the public's trust and interest hinge on seeing raw honesty rather than orchestrated punchlines. So, what does all this mean for the future, and for Stallone's place in it? Let's wrap up by looking at where this feud leaves us. The Sylvester Stallone versus Jimmy Kimmel saga might have begun as just another celebrity spat, but it quickly evolved into a revealing commentary on authenticity versus artifice. Stallone seized the moment, calling out Hollywood's fear-driven creativity and turning a routine late-night jab into a rallying cry for genuine expression. Audiences rewarded him for it. Kimmel, meanwhile, is left with tough questions about his show's direction and whether it can remain compelling in an age demanding deeper conversations and fewer constraints. The days of controlling the narrative from a glossy studio chair might be slipping away as viewers flock to podcasts, social media, and reality shows that have no problem peeling back the curtain on real life. So, was Stallone overreacting, or did he reveal a raw truth we've all sensed but rarely talk about? That's up to you. What's clear is that this showdown signals a broader transformation in how we want our entertainment served. Less polish, more honesty, fewer pre-packaged jokes, and more unscripted moments that leave us thinking. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you side with Stallone's call for unfettered creativity, or do you think Kimmel was just doing his job as a comedian? Either way, this is one fight that goes way beyond a one-liner. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell if you want to stay in the loop on all things Hollywood and beyond. Because in a world where everyone has a voice, it's the unfiltered ones that hit the hardest.